Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight in tennis and how to go to college for tennis. My guest today is Scott Veith, and he is the head men's and women's tennis coach at FDU, Fairleigh Dickenson University-Madison. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So usually I ask my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Okay, I went to Wilkes University out in Pennsylvania. Went to, really to play football. And the story of how I found my way into tennis will come up in a little bit. Yeah, I played football out there. Tried to play baseball. Found out the hard way I wasn't good enough. But so I tried the two-sport athlete thing, and basically I was a football player. I had my national letter of intent signed to Monmouth, and backed out for some academic reasons and ended up at Wilkes.
Wow. Well, that brings me to my next question.
Okay.
So in high school,
Yes.
When did you start thinking about college? Was it freshman year, senior year?
Way too late. I started thinking way too late. I had two older brothers who both played hockey at the collegiate level, which is a little rare for New Jersey, but they're pretty good players. I wasn't. Hockey coaches told me to keep my cleats on, so I played football and really didn't give serious consideration to college until really during my senior year.
Wow.
And found out I was so far behind the eight ball. I really didn't realize that I did things poorly until after I was done and I was coaching. I would say I wasn't well informed by nobody else's fault. I didn't have a great handle on the process. And I guess that's one of my big things as a coach now is making sure whether they like FDU or not is inconsequential. I want to make sure that the recruit understands the process and their family understands the process.
So how did you have schools like Monmouth University finding you if you were starting so late? Were you that good in football?
Good enough, I guess. I mean, I'm tall and fast, and I guess they're two of the big things they're looking for. Sure. So I was what was at the time called the Proposition 48, a partial qualifier academically out of high school. And so the two parts are your academics and your standardized testing scores. And my scores were fine, and my grades were fine, but the classes I took were not college preparatory level classes all the way through. So I ended up as a partial qualifier. And while Monmouth and a few other schools were still interested and would have honored it, I wanted to play right away.
Wow.
So, not saying that's wise or unwise. For me, it probably wasn't the best idea, but at 17, I wanted to play.
Sure.
And had a friend at a Division III school and said, hey, come check us out. And that's where I ended up. And at the time, it no longer exists, the Proposition 48, but it didn't apply to Division III schools. And
so it's Wilkes-Barre that you went to?
I went to Wilkes in Wilkes-Barre. So.
Okay, so Wilkes, so you're there, you're playing football. Mm-hmm. How's the school? What's it like?
It was quiet. It was fun. It's certainly a fun school. I enjoyed myself, and there a good number of the kids there were student athletes, so it was easy to fit in. I enjoyed it. I feel like I may have been more successful in maybe a bigger school environment, under 1,000 kids there. But I enjoyed it. They were good people, good coaches for sure.
Sure.
I'm not convinced it was the perfect fit for me, but I think I did okay, and I think there were good people who tried to help. So.
Good. So now you graduate from school. How did you get from there to head men's and women's basketball coach at
tennis?
Tennis coach.
So unique road, I suppose. When I was all done with school, I was working in fitness, strength conditioning, personal training, and all that fun stuff, and had a chance to work with a student athlete from FDU privately. Through conversation, found out that one of my former teammates at Wilkes was on staff there. So I said, tell Coach so-and-so, I said hello, and a half hour later my phone rang, and he said, Scott, I need you. We need a tight ends coach like today. So I went there and interviewed and pretty much took the a part-time position right away. I had coached a year or two of high school football.
So you were in the football.
Yes, I came to FDU through football.
Okay.
And so here's the fun story. Came to FDU through football. Few staff changes. Became a full-time football coach. Really, there's no such thing as a part-time football coach. It's just how much money they want to give you. So I was a full-time coach without having yet paid my dues, but certainly I'll take the check. So I agreed to do that. Within a year or two, within a year, I was not a coordinator. I was coaching the offensive line. Okay. Those positions at the Division III level, the full-time position, they're usually reserved for coordinators. and I didn't have that skill set. So we hired a coordinator, and my role, my role didn't change. My pay went back down to part-time, and I went in to talk to the athletic director. I said, Coach, I love it here. It's a great school. It's a great environment. I really enjoy. I can't stay for part-time money. So he had a meeting with a coach who was stepping down as the part-time men's tennis coach. Offered me to supervise the men's tennis team, and this is 2004. And I said, I don't want to supervise anything. I want head coach on my resume. He said, well, what do you know about tennis? I said, well, I'll beat you. And so we had a little laugh, and he said, listen, Scott, I trust you. Recruit, organize, motivate, and discipline, and you'll learn tennis. And so I took that team, the 2004 team, which was a good group of young men, and they were good tennis players, but they had found some trouble. They had found ways to be lazy. They had found ways to be irresponsible. And I told them I would help them with all that if they taught me tennis. And for the most part, I've been there ever since.
Wow.
In 2009, I took over the women's program and some additional responsibilities in the athletic department. I've been there full-time ever since.
Wow, fantastic. Great job.
So I've learned tennis.
Yeah.
I can play now. I can coach it now. At the time, I didn't know.
Wow.
But I think it was refreshing for a lot of the players that I didn't come and try and change anything about tennis.
Right.
I want to help you be successful young men.
Right.
You teach me. And there were no preconceived notions on either part. It was, I'm here to help. You help me. We'll be great. And those 7 guys I'm still in touch with.
Wow.
Some of them on a weekly basis. So
Wow.
I never thought I would love being a college tennis coach. And I don't know how often I'd say this to the guys in the football office, but I think I enjoy it just as much as football.
Wow, fantastic. And you're still coaching football?
I am, yeah. This year I'll have the defensive line. I've been involved in the strength conditioning aspect. I've coached tight ends in the past. I think for Coach Surace, I am the guy who fills the hole.
Yeah.
You hire a lot of young coaches. You hire some coaches that are going to dedicate all their time to football. Where's Coach Veith going to fit in? This year it's going to be defensive tackles.
Wow.
So that's where I'll be this year.
Great.
So,
fantastic.
yes.
So now here are these kids. How do you find tennis players, men and women, in the state of New Jersey or anywhere to come to Fairleigh Dickenson University-Madison?
I'll look just about anywhere, whether it's a recruiting website, whether it's a local match. I'll go and see a tournament. Even if it's not local, I might travel a little bit to see them. The ones that we've done the best with as far as bringing them into the school, them then succeeding both athletically, academically, are the ones who take charge of the process. They'll reach out to me or they'll come on a visit. That's not the only way I'll find them, but the ones that we've had the most luck with or the most success with are the ones who are in charge of their college search. So we will look wherever. I'll uncover whatever stone there is.
Yeah.
But the success very often comes in the kid who's in charge of the process.
So now, do you find kids that they're doing it as early as freshman year, or do you find kids really doing it still junior and senior year of high school?
I'll have through the tennis office, and I know some other coaches in our department will have plenty of freshmen and sophomores who will contact them. On our timeline, certainly for tennis and also in the football office, I'm not talking to freshmen yet. I'm still working. I'll respond and let them know they're on our radar. Uh-huh. Really, the beginning of their junior year is when, for us at the Fairleigh Dickenson in College of Florham, we beginning of the junior year is when that process really starts on our end. But as a Division III, that is not an elite university, a very good university, the process really doesn't end. Mm-hmm. If a young man or a woman contacted us this week and was looking for this fall and the academics were there, we'd still be trying.
Right.
So
now what are some of the requirements that you look for men's and women's tennis? Is it grades? Is it stats for tennis? What are you looking for?
I don't worry too much about statistics. And when one of the things I'd like folks that are watching this to know, statistics don't matter. As far as your athletic statistics, they don't matter. Can you handle it academically? Are you the kind of kid that's going to come and get your degree in 4 years or 4.5, depending on the program? Are you willing to compete? If your first question is how many kids are returning, probably not the right fit for us. Compete. Come in, work hard, beat the guy in front of you or the girl in front of you, and it's your spot. And that, I think that's true with any college sport. If you're not willing to compete, if you're not ready to compete, if you're not serious about competing in that sport, it's not going to work. And people who enjoy the hard work aspect. Because I try and we're Division III tennis. There are very few, if any, Division III tennis players who have gone pro as a playing professional. Certainly many as a teaching professional. So I want them to enjoy their experience. That doesn't mean we're not going to work hard. We're going to work. But if you don't enjoy working, if you don't enjoy practice, if I don't make practice so that it's hard and fun, we're all making a mistake. So we want the kid who wants to love their experience and wants to help the teammates love their experience.
Great.
That's who we're looking for.
So now, how many kids are on the team, and is there any kind of money or scholarship or anything that a Division III school has?
Well, at the Division III level, we're not allowed to award any money based on your athletic ability. What we can do, or what I like to do, is make sure that you're speaking to the right people and you're on the right time frame. So while we can't offer you a scholarship, what we can do is help be a liaison between you and our admissions department or our financial aid department. Can't speak on your behalf, but I can make sure you're doing it well and doing it correctly and speaking to the right people. Make sure your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted.
There's monies available at the school other than athletic scholarships.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we have, I don't know the exact percentage, but the vast majority of our students are receiving financial aid, whether it is need-based, academic award, or an award of some other kind. And they're certainly out there. As far as how many people are on the team, we're probably coming into fall camp, men and women. I practice them together, men and women together, for when it's appropriate. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. When it's appropriate, they're all together. I'm looking at 28 this year. I think 15 and 13.
Wow. So it's a lot of kids.
Yeah, and I try and use as many as possible when appropriate. If I don't think a player can help us, I'll let them know that. I don't cut them based on ability, but I'll let them know I don't think your skill set is where it needs to be. I'm not getting rid of you. The same rules still apply for you as far as practice attendance, match attendance, all those things, keeping your GPA where it needs to be. But I don't see any value in getting rid of that kid unless they're going to hurt themselves or somebody else, or unless their presence is taking away from somebody else's court time. That can be tricky at times, but I try not to cut kids if they're workers. I try to get rid of the people who aren't.
So how do you go about finding the right kids that match the school?
There's the GPA and the SAT requirements. I'm almost always looking for a kid who is either a late bloomer, they're late to tennis, they switched from soccer, they switched from basketball, they just took it up recently, they did well in the other sport, but they're new to tennis, or they're undersized. Usually the kid that is been playing tennis for 15 years, they're the best player at their school, he's 6'3", or she's 6 foot tall, they're left-handed, they can serve it out wide. We're not getting that kid. And if we are getting their kid, they're not going to be happy. I like the kid who wins through work. One of our most successful, two of our most successful women's players right now converted from basketball late in their high school career and fell in love with tennis. They're not sick of it. It hasn't run them down. Tennis hasn't run its course in their system yet. And then on our men's side, probably our most successful player right now was the third best player on a very good team. Came into our place, and those other guys had high, Division I, Division II opportunities, and he didn't. Came to our place and is the big dog and loves it. Wow. So it's usually that player that is either second level or has transitioned to tennis recently. And then we have several multi-sport kids. I've had soccer, volleyball, basketball over the years where they play both. Their concentration is, one or the other, doesn't really matter, but often it's the concentration is the other sport. And they come and they work with us when they're in the off season with that sport.
So, similar to your situation,
yeah, but
right?
they're probably better at both than I was. So,
fantastic. Now, a lot of parents always come up to me and they ask me the same question, which is, when you get to college, it's all about the sport and not about academics. What do you say about that?
I would say I don't think you could be more wrong. I think it is an integral part of the collegiate experience. But to separate the two, I don't think worth. You are or you are not an athlete. I still like to think I'm an athlete. You know, I have friends who I played with high school, college, who I hope still think that they are athletes. It's who you are. You only get a finite window to be a student athlete. That window closes pretty quickly. And what we found at our school statistically is the student athletes have a higher GPA than the non-athletes. It's a higher graduation rate than the non-athletes. And through athletics, there are more opportunities to stay on track, whether it's the coach staying on top of you or a study hall or whatever. There are more opportunities to do so. I think if you are an athlete, just as if you are a musician and go to college and don't get involved in a band, you're missing out. Mm-hmm. If you're an athlete and go to college and don't get involved in a sport, I think you're missing out. Certainly at the Division III level, where playing opportunities are there for just about anybody if it's at the right institution. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say I hear from people every year who say, I'm going to sit out my freshman year to concentrate on academics. And my response is usually, that's fine, but when you've adjusted to life without athletics and then try and transition back in, it's going to change again.
Yeah.
And then you'll need to adjust again, you know?
Yeah.
So
now, students at Fairleigh Dickenson University, and what's the process of the year? So do they get to campus August? Do they get to campus September? And take me throughout the year.
Sure.
What are they doing?
So our calendar, I try and make it as user-friendly as possible. Our students don't come in or stay late for any semester. They get their full summer, and then we start our practices the second Monday of school. And then our fall season is 20 to 30 days, depending on the calendar or the academic year, and we'll shut them down in time for Thanksgiving. So that they'll get that break. When we come back in the spring, we start going around February 1st. So they get their whole winter break. Once February 1st comes, it's tennis all the time. You're in class, you're involved in tennis, or you're doing something else that I know about. Right. And then we usually wrap up around May 1st, unless somebody's going to keep inviting us to postseason tournaments, and we'll keep going.
Really?
Yeah. So it's really the crux of our season is mid-March to early May, which is a pretty short window. Mm-hmm. As far as our playing season, our training season is year-round as far as strength conditioning and that kind of stuff. Right. But the playing season is basically mid-March. We go to Hilton Head, South Carolina every March, bring our whole squad it's not a tournament. It's called spring break tennis, but it's competition with other schools, other Division IIIs, whether they're local or whether they're Ohio schools or Michigans or whoever wants to play. And then that's basically our kickoff.
So tell me a little bit about the team and the school.
Okay, so I'll tell you the team first. The school's a much bigger story. Our team, like I said, we're comprised of somewhere between 25 and 30 kids, men and women combined. Now, obviously, you can only play for the men or the women, but I like to bring them together as often as possible to practice. Makes their schedule easier, makes my schedule easier, and I think no matter the campus, the larger your group, the easier it is to get recognition, room reservations, respect from whomever. Bigger groups do better, so I brought them together as a bigger group. Our men's team lost in the conference finals this year to Wilkes, where I went, and Chris is doing a fantastic. Chris Light is the head coach out there at Wilkes. He's doing a fantastic job. But they're the class of our league. And both the men and women our men lost in the finals this year. Our women were a little bit down this year, but we're not losing anything. Everybody was freshman or sophomore. We had one junior. Everybody else is either returning or I've brought in a few players that are good. What I guess the best thing that I would say about our team, that both men and women, number one is competitive, and number two, they're good people. Yeah. So I see a lot of success coming this year from both men and women. I think moreover, they've become a very good team, on and off the court. They're friends, and I've been involved in a lot of teams that really weren't cohesive. Yeah, it's more enjoyable to coach the people who get along and want each other to win and are willing to compete with each other to help each other win. So that's good. Yeah, and the school. So what about Fairleigh Dickenson University, the Madison campus? So the school is, as you know, Division III. We are athletically, we play in the Middle Atlantic Conference, which is us and Manhattanville, 2 schools from Maryland, and everybody else is Eastern Pennsylvania private schools. We are a mid-level Division III school. Admission standards, you're looking at a minimum of a 950 on the 2-part SAT. If a kid is in the range of a 3.0 GPA, they'll get in. Some lower than that will get in. They may not get academic money. The campus is beautiful. If you haven't been there, it's certainly worth a visit. It's an old Vanderbilt estate, still the Vanderbilt mansion, and I was surprised when I first got to the school. You know, I went to Jefferson, up in right on the border of Morris, Sussex, and Passaic counties, and it was about 15 miles away from FDU. And I'd never been there. I'd visited as a football player and baseball player, played games there, but never been on campus. And I went for my interview, and we walked out of the back of the rec center, and it was like Oz. It was this beautiful forest, and I never saw such a thing. I'm like, where has this place been? It really is. I mean, you know, where we're sitting is pretty close to one of the prettiest schools in the country, in Princeton University. As far as schools in New Jersey, I don't know how many are better, you know, than FDU after that step down from Princeton. It's a beautiful school. It's a fun atmosphere. A lot of good young professionals on campus who are help getting kids involved and making sure that first year experience is quality, so the rest of the years can be quality. It is I would call it a small college town. Us, Drew, and College of St. Elizabeth all on the same street. Some friendly rivalries there, but you know, I think good people. So Madison's a good little town, and Morristown is a 20s to early 30s crowd. It's good. It's a good environment.
So now you've been there a few years now.
I have, yes. I got there in 2004 and left for a very brief time to pursue a coaching position outside of education, and came back, you know, at the school's request about 18 months later.
So how do you feel about the school and your job and how it all works for tennis as well as for football?
I enjoy it. I really do enjoy coaching. It's you know, athletic administration is nice, and it's great that you know, you get to be in charge, you get to make big decisions. I like to be involved with students one-on-one. So I feel pretty good about it. I feel at home. You know, I really do feel, you know, my children, I have 3 kids who have basically grown up on campus. I have a 10-year-old son who thinks he owns the campus. And sometimes we've got to reel him back in and let him know he's not really in charge. But he's the ball boy for the football team, and all 3 kids are at our matches. And it's very, I don't know if it's because of my family or we're just a successful byproduct of the campus, but it's family friendly, and I feel at home. So and that's what I want for the student athletes. As I want my players to refer to our campus as home while they're there, wherever they're from. That's great. Go back to where you're from, or go make your own life wherever. But while you're there, I'd like you to call it home.
So what's some of the things that the school piques interest from the students to come to school there?
Sure. So some of our top academic programs, education, we've got a 5-year program. It's called our Quest program, where in 5 years you can have your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, and your student teaching done in 5 years. And that's so many of our students have been involved, certainly student athletes as well. The business program, businesses in our area is big. There's so many Fortune 500 companies that are looking for interns and looking for job placement, and our campus does a great job of getting people involved there. Entrepreneurial studies, same way. If you'd like to start your own business, it's a great place for that. Psychology has been one of our calling cards for years. And within recent years, I really don't know how long it's been, but I've noticed an uptick recently in the drama and theater and arts programs. More and more student athletes involved in that stuff. And I guess it's my own ignorance outside of athletics. If it happens outside of athletics, sometimes I don't see it. But I've noticed more athletes involved in the drama and theater. In fact, one of our best tennis players was a theater major a few years ago, and he kind of opened my eyes to some things. I was like, this is outstanding. He had such a good experience, and I was happy for him there. So there are many more options, but those are a lot of the ones that have been calling cards for us for years.
That's great. Fantastic. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. Usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the students that they want to play tennis at the college level, they're interested in Fairleigh Dickenson University? what advice do you want to give to those students?
Well, if they're interested in FDU, the advice is call me today. But if they just want to be collegiate tennis players anywhere, and not just tennis, I would say any student athlete or rising collegiate athlete, is take charge of the process. Select the schools that offer what you were looking for outside of your sport and narrow it down that way. I think way too often, I don't know how many coaches would appreciate me saying this, but I think too often a collegiate coach will steer the process for somebody because of their athletic ability. Take charge of the process. Is it the kind of school you want to go to? Do you want to live there for 4 or 5 years? And if the answer is no, cross it off the list. Yeah. If it's somewhere where you could see yourself living, take it seriously. Take an overnight visit that the coach doesn't know about, if possible. If you know a friend there, if you met somebody online or whatever, somebody through a social media site that you found has that connection to that school, stay with them for a night. See what it's really like. There's only so much I can tell you about going to FDU because I didn't go there. Hear it from the people who are there right now. Right. Take charge of that process and then see if that sport fits in. Because my experience has been more often when someone chooses the school strictly because of the sport, probably not the best fit for them. Yeah. But if they choose it because that's the degree they want to hang on their wall, and they offer that sport, they'll stick around and they usually graduate in 4 years.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. Thank you.
You got it.
Coming.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.